Imagine you want to buy a nice house, in a good neighborhood, but instead of paying with money, you pay with a flower, one single flower, not a rare jewel, not gold, a flower. And the person selling the house says yes, because that flower is worth more than the house. This actually happened. In the 1630s, in the Netherlands, people were paying enormous amounts of money for tulip bulbs. Some bulbs cost more than a house, more than a ship, more than a skilled worker could earn in 30 years. And then, very suddenly, it all stopped. Prices fell. People lost everything. And the world had its first financial bubble. Welcome to Michael's Mindcast. In this episode, I want to tell you the story of Tulip Mania, what happened, why it happened, and what it can teach us about money and markets today. Let's go back almost 400 years. To understand Tulip Mania, you first need to understand where it happened and why. It is the early 1600s. The Netherlands is one of the richest countries in the world. Dutch ships travel everywhere: Asia, Africa, the Americas. They buy goods in one place and sell them in another. They make a lot of money doing this. Amsterdam is the most important financial city in the world at this time. Banks are opening. New businesses are starting. Money is moving fast. And because of all this trade, something new is happening. Ordinary people, not just kings and nobles, are becoming rich. Merchants, craftsmen, traders, they have money and they want to do something with it. They want to make more money. This is where our first power word comes in: investment. An investment is when you put your money into something, a business, a product, a piece of land, because you believe it will be worth more in the future. You spend money now to make more money later. In the 1630s, Dutch people were looking for good investments, and they found something very unexpected: tulips. Tulips came to Europe from the Ottoman Empire, the area we now call Turkey. They arrived in the Netherlands around 1590, and Dutch people loved them immediately. Why? Because they were beautiful, and because they were rare. But then something strange happened. A virus, a kind of sickness, infected some tulip bulbs. This virus changed the flowers. Instead of one simple color, the petals showed 2 or 3 colors together: red and white, purple and yellow, patterns that looked almost like paintings. These broken tulips, as people called them, were completely unique. No two flowers looked exactly the same. And because they were so rare and so beautiful, rich people wanted them. They planted them in their gardens to show their wealth and good taste. When something is rare and many people want it, the price goes up. This is simple economics, and tulip prices were going up fast. As prices rose, traders noticed an opportunity. If you bought a tulip bulb today and sold it next month, you could make a profit, a good profit. And if prices kept rising, you could do it again and again. Soon, a proper market formed. That is our second power word. A market is any place, physical or not, where buyers and sellers come together to buy and sell things at agreed prices. Markets exist for everything: food, houses, company shares, and yes, tulip bulbs. Tulip markets appeared in cafes and trading houses across Holland. People came to buy and sell. But here is the interesting part. You did not need to own a tulip to trade it. You could sign a contract, power word number 3, to buy a bulb in the future at a price agreed today. The bulb was still in the ground. You had not paid yet, but the agreement was made. A contract is a formal agreement between two people or two groups. It says, I will buy this thing at this price on this date. Contracts like this are still used in financial markets today. This system made it very easy to trade, very fast, and it attracted a new kind of trader, someone who did not care about tulips at all, someone who only cared about price. This is called speculation. Power word number 4. Speculation is when you buy something not because you want to use it, but only because you think you can sell it later at a higher price. A speculator does not want the tulip. A speculator wants the profit. By 1636, thousands of people were speculating on tulips. Farmers, carpenters, bakers, people with no experience in trading. Everyone wanted to make money, and for a while, everyone did. Now, I want to stop for a moment, because I know what you might be thinking. This sounds crazy. Who pays a fortune for a flower? But here is a better question. Have you ever heard of people paying enormous prices for things that seemed to have no real value? Rare sneakers, digital art, cryptocurrencies that nobody really understood? The names are different, but the story is the same. Keep watching, because when we get to the psychology part, things are going to get very interesting. Let me give you some real numbers, because the numbers are hard to believe. At the peak of Tulip Mania, in early 1637, one bulb of the rarest variety, called the Semper Augustus, was sold for 10,000 guilders. The guilder was the Dutch currency at that time. How much is 10,000 guilders? A good craftsman in Amsterdam earned around 300 guilders per year. So one tulip bulb cost more than 33 years of work, more than most people earned in their entire life. Other records from this period show tulip bulbs being exchanged for a house with a garden in Amsterdam, a horse and a carriage, and large amounts of food and furniture. And remember, people were not just buying one bulb, they were buying contracts for dozens of bulbs, sometimes with money they did not have. They were borrowing money to buy tulips, hoping to sell quickly and pay back the loan. This practice of using borrowed money to invest is called leverage. Power word number 5. Leverage means using money that is not yours to make a bigger investment. It can make your profits larger, but it can also make your losses much larger. When you invest with leverage, you are taking a bigger risk. Many tulip traders were using leverage in 1637, and this made the eventual crash much more painful. February 3rd, 1637. A tulip auction in the Dutch city of Haarlem. The sellers arrive. They have their bulbs. They have their contracts. They wait for buyers. The buyers do not come. Nobody knows exactly why this happened on that specific day. Maybe buyers had no more money. Maybe a few experienced traders decided to sell and take their profits, and when others saw this, they became nervous and stopped buying too. Whatever the reason, the result was immediate and severe. Prices fell. Fast. Within days, tulip bulbs that had sold for thousands of guilders were almost worthless. People who had signed contracts to buy bulbs at high prices were now in serious trouble. They had promised to pay 5,000 guilders for a bulb that was now worth 50. This is what we call a market crash. Power word number 6. A market crash is when prices fall very quickly and very sharply across a whole market. It happens when confidence disappears. When buyers stop buying and everyone tries to sell at the same time, prices fall because nobody is willing to pay the old price anymore. The Dutch government tried to help. Courts discussed whether tulip contracts were legally valid. Many contracts were canceled or renegotiated at much lower prices. But for people who had borrowed money to invest, the damage was serious. They had to repay loans, but their tulips were now worth almost nothing. If this story feels familiar to you, if you have seen something similar happen in modern times, that is not a coincidence. And the reason it keeps happening is not because people are foolish. It is because of something much deeper. Let me explain. Were Dutch people in the 1630s stupid or irrational? No. They were normal human beings, and that is exactly the problem. There are 3 things that make financial bubbles happen, and all 3 were present in Tulip Mania. The first is following the crowd. When you see everyone around you making money, it is very hard to stay out. You think, if I don't buy now, I will miss my chance. You do not want to be the only person who did not profit. So you join in. And when more people join in, prices go up more. And when prices go up more, even more people join in. It is a circle that keeps growing until it stops. The second is storytelling. People told each other stories to explain why prices would always go up. Tulips are luxury goods. Rich people will always want them. There will always be a buyer. These stories felt logical, but they were based on hope, not on facts. In a bubble, people believe stories more than numbers. The third is leverage, which we already discussed. When people borrow money to invest, they take much bigger risks, and when the crash comes, they do not just lose their savings, they lose money they borrowed and still have to repay. These 3 forces, following the crowd, believing stories, and using borrowed money, appear in every financial bubble in history. They appeared in the internet bubble of the late 1990s, in the housing crisis of 2008, in many cryptocurrency markets more recently. The flower changes, the behavior does not. Here is something interesting. For a long time, historians described Tulip Mania as a disaster that destroyed the Dutch economy. Books and articles said it caused widespread poverty and financial collapse. But modern historians disagree. A researcher named Anne Goldgar studied the original documents from this period very carefully. She found that many of the most dramatic stories, houses traded for single bulbs, thousands of families ruined, were exaggerated. Some were invented. The real story is more limited. The Dutch economy continued to grow after 1637. Amsterdam remained a major financial center for many more decades. The crash hurt some traders, but it did not destroy the country. So why did people exaggerate? Because the story of Tulip Mania was useful. It was a warning, a lesson about greed. People told extreme versions of the story to make the lesson stronger. This is important for us too. When we read about financial events, past or present, we need to think carefully. Is this the real story? Or is someone making it more dramatic to make a point? So what can Tulip Mania teach us today? The first lesson is simple but important. Price and value are not the same thing. The price of a tulip bulb reached 10,000 guilders, but the value, what the tulip could actually do for you, was still just a flower. When prices move far away from real value, a correction will come. Not maybe, always. The second lesson is about liquidity. Power word number 7. Liquidity means how quickly and easily you can sell an asset and get your money back. A house in a good city has reasonable liquidity. You can usually find a buyer. Cash is perfectly liquid. You can use it immediately. Tulip bulbs in a panicking market had almost zero liquidity. When everyone wanted to sell and nobody wanted to buy, sellers were stuck. Before you invest in anything, ask yourself, if I needed to sell this tomorrow, could I find a buyer? At what price? The third lesson, be careful when everyone says, this time is different. In every bubble, people explain why this particular asset is special, why the price will keep rising, why normal rules do not apply here. They are always wrong. And the fourth lesson, know the difference between investing and speculating. Investing means buying something with real value that you believe will grow over time. Speculating means betting on price movements. Both exist. Both have risks. But confusing them, thinking you are investing when you are actually speculating, is a very common and very expensive mistake. Let me bring this all together. Almost 400 years ago, in one of the richest and most sophisticated countries in the world, intelligent and hardworking people lost significant amounts of money over flowers. Not because they were foolish, but because they were human. They followed the crowd. They believed optimistic stories. They borrowed money to invest more. And when the market turned, they had nowhere to go. The tulip bulb was just the object. The real story is about human behavior, about the way we think about money, risk, and opportunity when everyone around us seems to be getting rich. And because human behavior does not change, this story keeps repeating. Different assets, different countries, different centuries, but the same pattern. The best protection is not to avoid all risk. It is to understand what you are doing and why. To know the difference between price and value. To ask the uncomfortable questions when everyone else is excited. History cannot protect you automatically, but if you pay attention to it, it can make you a much smarter decision maker. That is what we try to do here at Michael's Mindcast. Take real stories from business and history and find the lessons that actually matter. If you found this useful, subscribe so you do not miss the next episode. And if you want to go deeper on any of the concepts we covered, bubbles, speculation, market psychology, let me know in the comments. I read every one. See you next time.